Welcome to episode 12 of That Dynasty podcast. I'm your host, Matthew, and alongside Isiah. Of course, we're going to welcome you into That Dynasty podcast again this week. The fantasy playoffs are right around the corner, and hopes and dreams for a lot of teams are still hanging on by a thread. Isiah, how are your hopes and dreams doing right now, my friend?
Dude, not too hot. I mean, it was a good week for me in this Dynasty league. My hopes and dreams more rely on Team Joni 1 continuing to lose. Unfortunately, spoiler alert here, but that didn't happen this week. So we'll see. I'll get back to you on that one next week.
Sounds good. Well, as always, we're excited to talk about, the past week that just happened, as well. Look ahead at week 12 coming up. But before we do get into everything, make sure to follow us on Twitter and on TikTok. Same handle on both of those platforms at That Dynasty Pod. We got full videos of our YouTube podcast available with video format. We also have our podcast in audio format available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you want the links for that, it's down in the description below. If you're watching on YouTube, or in the show notes if you're listening on the Spotify form. Besides, who knows if Twitter will still be around tomorrow, so don't waste any time connecting with us on there before it's too late.
Do we have any plans to hop on Truth Social or anything?
I think that we already talked about this. We're working on the OnlyFans development.
Probably better place to be than Truth anyway. So
yeah, it's a better source of revenue potentially, down the future.
For sure.
So let's get started. What do we got this episode?
Yeah, we've got some league updates to break down. We got a trade, go over last week's matchups, make some of our infamous predictions for this coming week, and then we're talking about a little bit different this week. We're talking about our playoff picture for our league, and then just going in depth on all the teams and whatnot and what they need and who they're playing. And then, we'll talk about our MVP segments, and then we'll hit up the power rankings. So.
Sweet. Let's take a look at the league updates since we filmed last time. This is the second week in a row that seems like pretty much everyone has changed their name. So here's what it looked like this past week in order. I feel like it's important to go in order and not just talk about what we finally settled on, because there was some great moments in here. So started off with Terrell, aka Tipodimo, aka Topodomo, going from one more dub and I'm good to get my name out of your mouth. I believe that was in response to Trevor's team name, which was Topodomo's L Train. It was either that or in response to us mispronouncing Topodomo on the podcast. So either way, Terrell, much appreciate the name, and if it's because of us, then we're sorry. And then
I'm not sorry, Matthew may be sorry, but I stand by how I pronounced it. It's definitely right. Topodomo.
Fair enough. It's definitely Topodimo, but then
Thanks.
He ended up changing his name again to from Get My Name Out of Your Mouth to Dallas Wears Kirk's Chains right after the Cowboys game. If you want to call it a game, it was more like the Cowboys beating of the Vikings.
Yeah,
that was a brutal game, but really kind of a clever play off of, I think it was Andy's team name, which is Kirk Wears All the Chains. So then Trevor decided to hop in on the name change fun. He updated his team name from Topodomo's L Train to Topodomo Packing L's. Isiah then responded. What did you respond with the first name change there?
What did I do? I can't even keep up with all the name changes. I think I did Vikings are 0-4 in the Super Bowl. Just throwing a little bit of a little shade. I didn't realize. As a Patriots fan, we don't do a lot of crap talking towards Vikings fans, but they're a little softer than I thought they'd be. A little Charmin Ultra soft. But you know what? We'll let that slide. And then I changed it again to Trevor packing more L's, just because there was a little back and forth going on in the chat, and I was trying to stick up for Topodomo, and just wanted to remind Trevor who actually had more L's. And then I changed it. I'm sorry. And then Tobodomo was like, "Hey guys, it's all love. We're all a bunch of dairy heads out here," and changed it to Reverend Big Cheese. And then Trevor changed his name to Loser's Corner. I'm assuming that has to do with his record. And then I changed mine to Jets D. Let Zach QB Zach Wilson down. And then I finally settled on Angie's burner account after she was almost kicked out of her sleeper account. So that's just a little insight on our league and our drama and stuff.
Yeah, there's so many name changes. I was typing this out. I'm like, oh, and another one, and another one, and I didn't even have. It was just, it was a lot. It added to the conversation this week. It was nice. It was a nice trade deadline.
Dude, I was at work giggling like an 8-year-old that was coming up with these little name changes and stuff. So I'm glad I should be settled in on this one for a bit.
Yeah. This also was. I should mention this was the week of our trade deadline. So this trade that we're about to talk about is the last trade we're going to talk about till the end of the season. So definitely a little bit sad to think about that. But we've had some good conversations around trades on this show, and looking forward to more of those in the future. Um, but yeah, Angie actually almost got banned from Sleeper because someone in another league reported her because they were salty that they got voted out of a survivor pool. So if you're the person that reported Angie to Sleeper, you are the worst, and yeah, you don't deserve to play fantasy football.
Yeah, and respectfully, your mom's a hoe, as the kids say. Your mom's a hoe.
The kids are saying that. So Angie, we're glad to have you back, and you made it time just to listen to the podcast, I'm sure. So we'll give you a pass for not commenting on our last week's podcast at all. All right, moving into the trades. So we did have one trade that went down this week. So Isaiah, just give us an overview, and then we'll get into our thoughts on this. What was the trade?
Yeah, so Darius Archimish traded CeeDee Lamb for Darnell Mooney and Dan's Bent and Dent's QB's 23rd first round pick that Seed and Power actually holds. So Seed and Power traded a first and Darnell Mooney for CeeDee Lamb. I'll hop into my thoughts here first, just so everyone's tracking. I think CD Power had 3 first round picks. Is that correct? The next year's upcoming draft. So obviously, yeah, obviously this is coming from a strength of him of how many picks he has, and I really like what he did. I love his roster. He hasn't had the best luck, I guess, with matchups and stuff. He got the best play in the deal. He has surplus of draft picks. CeeDee Lamb is an absolute stud. He's actually kind of underrated this year. I know like the first couple of games of the season, he had some drops. People were kind of clowning on him, but dude, he's a 7th receiver on the year. He's only 23, right? So you're talking about 5+ years of wide receiver one talent. I think the value is pretty fair. I think Seaton definitely did better for himself. I just don't understand this trade from Darius's point of view. With all the trades he's made, like trading a second for Daryl Henderson or some of the other ones he's done, it was very much like, hey, I'm in a position to win this year. I'm going to kind of sell the farm, which, if you win, makes sense, right? But it's almost like he did all that and kind of took a giant step back, even though he's got a really good record. He's going to make the playoffs. I was confused by it for him. I don't hate the value. Just I don't understand it, I guess.
You're too kind. You're too kind. The value sucked. So this is a hot take on this one, but like this is I think we gotta go back a little bit further because Darius actually didn't draft CeeDee Lamb. So I think we gotta start with, where he ended up getting CeeDee Lamb from, and then what did he turn it into? And essentially look at the value that way because to your point, Darius has been very win now. He traded away all his picks. We made the joke he's allergic to draft picks, and I can understand wanting to get some buy back into that before draft season. The picks become more and more expensive because we all know, as draft season approaches and the hype approaches, it's going to get more and more expensive to try and buy picks. This is the story though. When Darius actually traded to get Lamb a few months ago, we talked about it on the show. He traded away Kenneth Walker Irv Smith, rest in peace, and a 2023 second round pick. And he traded all that package away for CeeDee Lamb, which, at the time, we were like, pretty good buy low opportunity for CeeDee Lamb. Kenneth Walker hadn't broken out yet. It was a tight end premium league. Irv Smith seemed like a good throw in and a second round pick, which is now projecting to be it's Seton Power's second round pick. So it's probably going to be a late second. But like at the time, it was a pretty decent package to be giving away, but you get a potential star wide receiver. So like overpaying, while his price is pretty low, but we thought it was a pretty good deal. And now to turn that into and send it away for Darnell Mooney and a first round pick that's going to be potentially mid to late first round from where Dan's actually positioned right now. I know he's 5 and 6, which we'll get to in a little bit later on in the show, but he's actually pretty close to one of the higher point scorers in the league, and he actually has I think he has the most points against him. So his record is because every single person has a fantastic week when they face Dan. So whoever is going to be facing him this week, is in for a treat. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. It's probably going to be their best week of the year. But sometimes we just have those years. But the actual team performance from the last few weeks that we're going to see out of Dan's team, I think that, this is. So I guess we'll put it into perspective. Trading away a large package for CeeDee Lamb and then selling him for pennies on the dollar. I'll show you here. Roto Trade. They have the value of the 107 next year and Darnell Mooney at 40, and they have CeeDee Lamb's value at 78. So almost, half the value for that package. And if I value out the package that he got originally, which when he sent it away, for what that's worth right now, Kenneth Walker himself is worth the same as CeeDee Lamb. So then you throw in what he also traded away in Irv Smith at the time and the second round pick, and he gave up more money, or he gave up more value to get CeeDee Lamb, which we thought was a win now move, to then turn around and sell him for half the value. So I don't know. He basically traded Ken Walker, Irv Smith, and the 209 for the 107 and Darnell Mooney, which is a terrible trade. Makes no sense. You wouldn't do that in a million years. So I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe he's a big Mooney guy. I don't see it, but yeah, just didn't make a lot of sense.
The big Mooney guy when I tried having trade talks with him about it. So,
hey man, we sometimes we change and we grow.
Yeah, I mean it'd be interesting to see. Maybe CeeDee Lamb tears his ACL and then we're all laughing. You know what I mean? But yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. So weird trade. Darius, I'm sorry that you lost on this one. And I think that, I've pretty much thought you've done really well for yourself in every other trade. So not being unfairly, critical in this, but this was just, I think it was a poor value for you. But for the last trade of the year to go out on, get some spectacle, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on that trade, and if you think that it's fair, if you think it's equal, does it make sense for someone who's has a potential to win this year to make this trade? Just love to hear your guys' thoughts on this trade. Let's have some conversation around what is the last trade of the year. Okay. Well, let's take a look at our picks from last week, man. I think I really crushed it this week with my predictions. I really do.
Yeah, that's it's not what happened.
It's not?
It's not what happened. No, you were already way down, and now you're actually even way more down. So, but I don't even want to gloat. I don't even want to gloat, bro. It's like the Patriots beating up Zach Wilson. Like, dude's one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen. Like, I'm not gonna gloat about it. It's like the Cowboys beat up the Vikings. Like, it's just we're talking about the scum of the earth here, guy. So first matchup to talk about from last week was the rated IR versus the Darius matchup. Two best teams in the league, pretty much unanimously. Dude, was really surprised about the score. Darius won 106 to 99. I thought this would be a 130 to 150, somewhere in that range type of dogfight. and yeah, it was really close. I think the Chiefs played what, Monday night?
Um, they
Yeah,
the Chiefs did not play Monday night. They
Sunday
played
night.
Sunday night.
Sunday night. They played Sunday night, and yeah, that's why Darius won. Had a great performance from Travis Kelsey. Um, Speaking of the Vikings gave him -9 points. Not what you want. Um, yeah,
Uh,
quiet game from Josh Allen, which is surprising.
Darius had Elliott with two rushing touchdowns on his bench, and Samaje P. Ryan with 3 receiving touchdowns on his bench as well. So between those two guys, he had 5 touchdowns just sitting there. That's a total of 47 points, just sitting on his bench. And had Travis Kelsey not gone off, which hint we may talk about in a little bit, we would have been writing up a whole segment. Our bench MVP would have just been titled Darius's bench. He also had the Cowboys defense putting up 18 points on his bench compared to the -9 points that the Vikings put up on his actual starting roster. So that is I believe someone calculated it out. That is a 27-point differential between those two defenses. And
Um,
I think
you
I
didn't
know.
even mention there's one more guy on his bench who went off, Austin Hooper, with 21.5 points with four receptions, 40 yards, and 2 touchdowns, dude. So
2 more
his
touchdowns.
his bench definitely outscored my team.
Yeah. But this is, I think I figured out why he started the Vikings defense. He was giving into homerism, and
Mm.
everyone knows the Cowboys defense is one of the best defenses in the league. And so he refused to start him because he didn't want to wish bad luck on the Vikings, I bet. And he's so lucky he won this week. Least efficient, definitely, manager. Crazy part is though, I looked up like what he could have scored. Is his potential score this week was 194 points.
Wow.
194. So
He almost got, he got a little bit over half of his total points he could have got, and he still won.
yeah.
That's pretty lucky, dude. I wish I had that luck sometimes, but yeah, Darius took the cake in that first one. And then second, I think, is the Satan Power matchup where he went up against Mr. Andy and his Kirk wears all the chains. Although Kirk probably wasn't wearing a whole lot of chains for this week, but I digress. Yeah, Satan Power 125 to 105. He's now 6-5 in the year. Andy's 4-7. Um,
Michael
oh,
Gallup is.
with the last pick, did we talk about who we originally picked?
Oh yeah, you picked Darius, I picked rated IR, and at the time I said it because I wanted to be contrarian, and it ended up almost coming to fruition. I was like, oh my gosh, this is off to a great start until literally Sunday night and Travis Kelsey. I was like, this is ridiculous. King Cobby should have won this week, hands down. But
Yeah. Yeah, Darius. And this one, I'm sorry, we both had Satan Power and we both were correct. He won by about 20. Got some really good performances. I might have touched on this last week, but I think my prediction came down to the two Niners players, and I might be capping right now, but I'm pretty sure I said that. But yeah, Debo and Kittle had fantastic games and easily led them to victory. So
yeah, I think that we definitely did talk about that for sure. I also noticed he has Michael Gallup hanging around on his starting lineup. So, forgot that he still was starting on people's rosters out there. But after seeing that, I can understand now why he would have targeted CeeDee Lamb for needing to strengthen up that bench, because I wouldn't want to be rolling out Michael Gallup, not after, you know, trading up Albert O for him.
okay, that's it. We're done here. This is my last week, Matt. You know what? Whatever. I'm not even mad. It was Michael Gallup. He's like maybe a flex guy at this point. So whatever. Screw you, Matthew. Moving on to the next. Oh, it was me and Trevor. And we both picked Trevor. What's that? That's a surprise. We uh we both picked Trevor, and for me, we both were wrong. Dude, Kirk Cousins gave him 1 point. Rondell Moore gave him -points. Bills gave him 4 points, and that pretty much held him back. My roster, T. Higgins had a great game. Najee Harris finally did something, so thank the Lord. I got offered one of the worst quick plug here. I got offered one of the worst trade offers I've ever seen. Darius offered me Michael Carter and Vance Jefferson for Najee Harris, and I almost left the league immediately. But
Like,
at least if I had accepted that, I still don't know if I would have had the worst trade this week. But it's fine. But yeah, I won. Moving forward for me, I do like being able to start Pacheco. I feel pretty good about that. The Pitts injury sucks. I got a lot of questions with when winner start with flex moving forward, but it was nice to get the dub and keep myself in the playoff hunt.
yeah, I mean, Akers is starting to get more carries and some more work now. He had a tough matchup last week, so that could be something where, maybe he starts to get a little bit more worthy of a flex play.
Yep.
You,
DK is back from my flex. I'm sorry, from bye this week, so we'll see.
you got Judy when he comes back. Ingram is
That's
actually
right.
a decent flex play as well, sometimes in the tight end premium league. Obviously, you're going to need to start him now, but
I was sitting here the other night. I was like, dude, what would my roster look like if I made no changes this year, and I would have had or like kind of kept it minimal? Would have been like Dak, Najee, Eckler, Dalvin Cook, T. Higgins, DK Metcalf. Dude, that's a pretty good squad. I wonder if I messed up or not, but I guess time will tell. But
I mean, listen,
moving
man,
on.
we'll get into the playoff picture a little bit, but you're not out of it right now, to be honest. So
It's true. Moving on, we had Topo Domo against Team Joni One, and we both picked the Cheese Reverend himself, and we both were wrong. Team Joni One, unfortunately, pulled off the victory by about 30-ish points. Got some good performances from Hurts, Montgomery, and that Commanders defense was fantastic. But I think the story of the day was just an absolute performance from Topo Domo, or Reverend Big Cheese now.
yeah, I think it was Justin Jefferson's turf toe that came out right before the game. They had said, "Oh yeah, he was dealing with mild turf toe," and Jefferson was like, "No, it's not going to hinder me at all." But when you're facing Diggs all day, the Dallas secondary, um, it definitely doesn't help. You add that to the fact that Dallas basically was ahead the entire game. There was no need to throw, and they weren't going to push it for a player that was already suffering a little bit of an injury. So, bit of an underperformance there. And then Isaiah McKenzie with the 0 for 1 target. That was a big surprise as well, in a game where the Chiefs, the Bills won 31-23. Josh Allen only had one passing touchdown. He ran for 7 yards. I don't know what happened to Josh Allen, and I don't know where the yards went in this game because I don't know if you saw was it Tyler Bass's stat line, the kicker? He kicked 7 field goals.
Yeah, I
He,
did see that.
he put up like 28 points of that. 28 points of the 31 was field goals. And so if your league plays kickers, I had Tyler Bass in quite a lot of them. And it was a very, very nice week for me and having him on my team. But I just couldn't believe that they couldn't score touchdowns, and Josh Allen must be hurt or thrown off from the traveling last minute in that snowstorm. But super weird week.
And then next matchup, we had Angie versus Love Incident. We both picked Angie, and we both were right. Dude. She won by 70 points. That's also in part because Love Incident had one of the worst starting rosters I've ever seen and left half the guys on his bench. So maybe wasn't pay attention this week. Maybe he's tanking. I don't know. Don't really care. I don't mind if he does. Whatever. It's all part of the strategy. But dude, yeah, she dropped a $135. Herbert was great. Pollard obviously was amazing this week. Donovan Peoples-Jones has been really good the last couple of weeks. And when we made the predictions, I also talked about the Green Bay receivers, and they had combined like 32 points, dude. And then obviously the Pats defense was phenomenal. So yeah, heck of a week for Angie. Congrats on the second win, and yeah, maybe we'll see another one this year. We'll see.
Yeah, it would have been a competitive week no matter who she was facing for sure. I think there's second highest points total on the week. Yep, second highest points.
It was, yep.
So, yeah, really, really solid showing.
And then last matchup of the week, we had Matthew over here against Dan's Bent and Dent QBs. I took Matthew. because I'm a good friend, and Matthew took Dan. And once again, like Matthew's been most of, if not all of the year, Matthew was wrong and I was right. But fortunately for Matthew, he won. Yeah, you dropped a $1.55, bro. Tell me about how you're feeling during that matchup.
Well, I had the wide receiver 1 and 2 on the week, Amari Cooper and Devontae Adams. And I think a large majority of the reason that I won this was because Amari Cooper showed up, and I had mentioned before the game that Amari Cooper on the road is absolutely horrible, and he doesn't show up and doesn't perform. And then they went and played in a dome, and he showed up and he performed, and it was fantastic. And just one more week until uh, he who shall not be named comes back at quarterback, and we'll see what that chemistry looks like. But I think this offense is about to be unleashed for the fantasy playoffs. And
So,
Devontae,
question for you, and you don't have to answer this if you're waiting. Are you planning to start Deshaun first week he comes back, or you think you're going to wait a week to see what he looks like?
definitely waiting a week for sure, because especially the first week he comes back, Tom Brady's facing New Orleans, and that'll be a good matchup for him. But I'm not going to start Derek Carr week over week. I'm going with Brady over Carr, just
Yeah.
based on volume and history there, and I like the talent. But yeah, I'm excited to see him come out and potentially put his team in a position to win. But yeah, I felt good. I was pissed at Gerald Everett though for looking like he was going to play, and then literally like 5 minutes before the game at 8 o'clock at night, oh yeah, Gerald Everett's out, and then all my other tight ends had already played, and I had like no one available on waivers, so I put in a quick waiver claim, or I picked up a free agent tight end for Arizona, like some random person that got one target, Steven Anderson, and I plugged him in just so I didn't, not start anybody. I'd already won at that point because Dan's team had already finished playing, but um, I was like, oh my gosh, this is bad. I literally didn't start a tight end this week almost, but it was a good week. I was
Not to not to interrupt you, but speaking of like random players picking up, we do have to make a correction on our last week's episode. For my bench MVP, I talked about a player named Kadero Lodge. Um, Maybe it's because I used to, watch Riverdale back in the day, the Lodge family, but that is not his name. Kadero, I know you are one of our loyal listeners, and I really apologize. We're gonna send you some merch or some gear, maybe exclusive OnlyFans membership, depending on how logistics work for that. But everyone is Kadero Hodge. That is Hodge, Hodge, as in hodgepodge, Kadero Hodge. So my apologies, brother. I don't think I'll ever talk about you again. Respectfully, respectfully, respectfully. But yeah,
you,
at least I got your
you
name
said
right.
his name was Cadateral Lodge. You said it's like, bro,
I
I asked you 3 times what his name was, and we
I offered Matthew like $200 to like take that episode down and just discreet it or delete it from the archives. But for those who care, it's still up, so I can look like a
dude,
moron.
the confusion came when I was trying to find his spelling of his name, and I kept searching in Sleeper app. I'm like, Lodge. I'm like, why is he not coming up, bro? How do you spell
In
Lodge?
my, in my defense, there's a player in the XFL, Kadarius Lodge, and that's what happened. I got him mixed up. He's been killing it in the XFL. He's a offensive lineman for the Quebec
Timberwolves.
Nordiques, yeah, whatever it is. So,
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, he just got recently traded. I forgot about that.
that's right, that's right.
Yeah,
I think Darius traded a first for him, to be honest.
I think Darius might have traded a first for him in a second. Honestly, he's been good.
Yeah.
He's like, this is a DFS league. Like, are we starting? Are we starting defense IDP? And we were like, no. And he still made the trade though because he thought it was a worthwhile investment. Just in
Yeah,
case.
yeah. I get it. This economy and everything we're dealing with nowadays. I understand.
Yeah.
You
So
ready to get into our MVP section?
we got to recap the picks here. So like, that meant I went 2-4 on
Okay.
the week.
Oh
Losing
yes.
record. If I had voted for myself, I would have gone 3-3. So, lesson learned, I guess. I'm on a 6-game winning streak, so we'll see what happens this week. But yeah, you went 4-2. You're really just great at this. The only thing I can literally say at this point is that at least I have a winning record on the year. I'm right more times than I'm wrong, but you are right far more than I am. So you might suck at Dynasty, but hey, you're good at predictions. So nice work.
Yeah, and you may be good at trading on your future assets, but hey, at least I'm good at picking. So
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Let's get into our MVP segment for this week, and we're actually going to do it a little bit differently. We only really had one matchup that was even remotely close. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take one bench MVP and one MVP from this matchup. I will take the bench MVP, and bear with me on this. This is a little bit messy, but hear me out, okay? I got two bench MVPs for this week. We got Kendall Hinton and Robert Woods, two names that I never thought would be in the MVP segment this late in the year, but this is where we're at. So this was the closest matchup of the week that was ended up being decided by less than 8 points. This was between Darius and King Cobb. It was 106.98 to 99.32. We aren't even going to talk about the fact that Darius would have had 7 more points just by sitting both the Vikings defense and Michael Carter, which is in itself a ridiculous stat that he would have had more points by sitting 2 players. But we plugged the numbers and we figured out that there is a way that King Cobb could have pulled off the victory. This was the path. Sit Saquon Barkley. So Saquon the best matchup of the year, just about. And he only managed to put up 30 points against that defense. I don't understand how.
he said, "Sit." He said, "Sit Saquon Barkley like any sane man would do."
Yeah, just listen, do you want to win or do you want to lose? Like, follow this advice for more. But no, like literally Saquon Barkley, you just got to sit him. You could have sat him, moved James Conner to the running back spot, and then put your flex Kendall Hinton, because obviously, right? Obviously, we knew let Russ cook. Kendall Hinton. Also, that is the same Kendall Hinton, you might be wondering, that put up the worst starting quarterback performance in the history of starting quarterback performances. If you guys remember last year, or sorry, 2020, when he started a game for the Broncos, when they had no quarterbacks because everyone was exposed to COVID and they couldn't play.
That's right.
And I wish I had the stat line. I'll try to find it before we post this. But he had the worst stat line in the history of quarterbacks who's played the whole game. So you could have obviously flexed him in, and then you could have started Bobby Trees over Tyler Boyd, and then King Cobb would have taken home the W, because Hinton over Barkley gets you 2.2 extra points, just like everyone thought. And then Woods over Boyd gets you another 6 points. And right there's your 8.2 points that would have made up the 7-point difference. And we actually could have had a W here for King Cobb. So listen, man.
A lot of math there. It reminds me of the meme with was it Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where he's got the whiteboard and he's pointing like the 15,000 different numbers, and that's literally the math you just did. I think the funny part is we did all that math, and then like if you add into it that Darius left like 200 points on his bench, but it's like if he does these things, but Darius keeps it the worst lineup he has, we could win. But no, dude, I'm with you. We were going through all the matchups this week, and we messaged each other. I was like, dude, there's not any, to be honest, that were close besides this one. And I mean, King Cobb really set the best roster. Just unfortunate.
Yep.
Speaking of this matchup, Darius won because of one man only, and that's Travis Kelce. Man just balling out Sunday night. He had 6 receptions, 115 yards, 3 touchdowns for a total of 30.5 fantasy points. Yeah, dude, he beat King, like we talked about. He beat him by about 7 points, and actually, in their low scoring matchup. Yeah, Kelsey's been the best player in football. I mean, I would say, most consistent player in fantasy football this year, and it doesn't look like he'll stop anytime soon. It's funny. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, dude, if I were to redraft over / maybe next year, Travis Kelce might just be the move at number one. Like him and Andrews are so above everyone else. Travis Kelce is always healthy. The dude's missed like zero time. And I feel like, especially running backs this year, is kind of a crapshoot. And there's so much talent in wide receivers that you can find. It's just like, dude, just being able to get like the best tight end and just get it out of the way is that might be the move moving forward. But I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I honestly draft Kelsey in the first round almost anytime I can. If it's not like if I'm early first round, I'm gonna pick Jefferson. Like that's what I did this year. It was like early first round was Jefferson. But if I'm or Jefferson or Cup, if I'm like two or three, I wasn't going running back. And honestly, that really has worked out well so far, considering the starts that the wide receivers were getting off to versus the running backs. But later on, Travis Kelce was like if I'm spot 6, 7, 8, that's where I'm going Kelce for sure, because I just didn't like the running back values that were there. So I agree. Like he's a first round pick for sure. But I think you're tight end premium, especially. Yeah, I could see the case for him going 101 overall. He's just so good, so consistent.
Yeah, he's a beast. He's the almost as good as Gronk, almost as good as Prime Gronk.
Almost as good as Gronk, he says. All right.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about from a not to get off a tangent here, but if we're talking about all the things that a tight end can do, I'll take Prime Gronk. But I don't know what you feel about that.
I don't know. I think it's pretty close. The
I think they're two different tight ends too. I think Kelce is probably better receiving tight end and give you more fancy stats. But Gronk was an absolute beast at blocking, one of the best blocking tight ends. And I feel like he played differently too. Like he had a lot more cheap shots, especially to the knees and stuff. That really would have prolonged his career. I saw a stat today. But there's something like Travis Kelce, 167 games, whatever. He's got a little bit more yards, more receptions than Gronk. But Gronk has like 20 something more touchdowns than he had at this point, which is I'm sorry, this amount of games played, which is pretty nuts. But
I gotcha. Well,
I digress.
if he keeps up the pace he's going right now, he'll pass Gronk by the end of the season.
Yeah, he definitely will with this how healthy he is.
Want to look at some
Want
predictions
to
week?
yeah, let's do some predictions. First one we got Angie's going up against no, I'm sorry, Angie's burner account, which is me. I'm sorry, I kind of don't know which account to switch to back and forth against Reverend Big Cheese. We got Topo Domo coming off a decent victory against Trevor in his losing corner, and Reverend over here hit him with a Hail Mary or whatever. Coming off a tough loss, but as I've stated in episodes prior, I'm really not too hot on my team this year / this week, and I think Terrell takes the victory over me. We talked about a little bit earlier. I'm not too confident with who I should start in my flex. Maybe Judy, maybe Cam Akers, maybe Brian Robinson, Isaiah Pacheco. Maybe I can throw Akers in there now because Henderson's cut and it's pretty much him and Rivers. But he's burned me in the past. And or no, I'm sorry, not him and Rivers. Was it Kyron Williams?
Kyron Williams, yep.
Yeah. But yeah, Akers has burned me in the past. Would love to get Garrett Wilson back. But yeah, I'm going to take Justin Jefferson and give me Topadama Terrell.
So I'm actually going to take you to win this one because it's going to be close, and I think that you have some guys with some higher upside. The only person he has with a ton of upside is Justin Jefferson, which could be obviously like week winning, but you have Higgins and Metcalf, and then if Harris plays the way he's been playing lately, I like the upside there. I also think that Dallas is going to actually be able to get into a shootout with New York, and I like that matchup better than Rodgers and Philly. So I think that it's going to be close. I'm going to give it to you, but dude, you gotta. This is so annoying to me. You gotta get your Monday players out of your freaking starting spot, bro, and swap them into the flex spot. And here's why.
Oh, I know the math. I just do it to piss you off because we've had this conversation before.
Oh my word, it pissed me off. So like for anyone who doesn't know out there, because people do this all the time. If you have someone that starts or that plays an earlier game and you're going to start them anyways, move them to one of your locked in starting spots and save your flex spots for people that play later in the day, later in the week. That way, if anything happens and they get injured or they get hurt, you can swap out and have more options for players that are eligible to be put into a flex spot. So if you're, running back Brian Robinson has already played and he's in your flex spot, then you've already locked in that a running back has to have played in that flex spot. So then if Isaiah Pacheco later on in the day comes out that he's not going to start, now you have to start another running back because now your running back spot is taken up by, your flex spot was already used up and your running back spot is empty now. Whereas if it was the other way around, your earlier running back starts in your running back spot, your flex is open. Now there's an injury that pops up. Oh my goodness, what happens? You can flex in anybody to that spot that you need. And it doesn't have to be a running back. It can be a tight end that plays later on. It can be a wide receiver or a running back. It could be all of the options. So for anyone who doesn't do that currently, league winning advice right there.
Are you done? I was taking a quick little nappy nap. You good?
Not everyone is as smart as you. Okay. And, is what it is. I got you on this one, dude.
All right, what a good friend. What a good guy. Next we got Darius coming in against Kirk wears all the chains. Yeah, simply I think Darius takes the cake this week. I will say I'm pretty interested to see who he starts running back the next couple of weeks. Considering his three main options right now are Michael Carter, Zeke, and Swift. That'd be interesting. I think after this week, Andy will kind of see the writing on the wall with his squad for this year. But I do have a squad moving forward with those young receivers he has, and then Kenneth Walker. But yeah, I don't see it for Andy this year.
Yeah, it's tough. Tough luck for Andy. He's got some bad matchups, but CMC and Ken Walker, Olave and Smith, Hawkinson, Garrett Wilson, um, George Pickens. Dude's a problem. Just saying. And he's got Greg Dulcich as well. So like really good options and Kyler Murray is going to be good for a while. I just don't think that he's going to be able to beat Darius this week. So I got Darius taking it this one.
Next, we got Buster Jacoby over here, and we got Angie who's coming off another win. Congrats to her. Like previously said,
$96 fab bids to you, just so you know.
$96. Okay. And then what's Angie's? As he has tiny purse.
His tiny purse.
Got way too much. I got way too much real estate up in your guys' heads, but I'll let it pass. I actually have Angie winning. No, I'm just kidding. I'm Matthew winning this one very easily. I mean, I don't want to get into it too much, but you're projected a 147 to her 92. And I will say those Packers receivers she has that she's been sitting on all year, values continue to go up. I think moving forward, I'd love to have them. So those look great for her. I think Roger will have a bounce back next year with those guys as he gets more comfortable. And but yeah, I got Mr. MC over here.
Angie's doing it as well. She's got people who play at 8:00 in the flex spot and someone who plays on Monday in the wide receiver spot. I'll give her a pass because she was locked out of her sleeper account until literally today. But Angie, fix your lineup, fix your life. I'm just kidding. Fix your lineup. All right, next matchup. Oh, did I say?
Did you?
I'm picking myself.
I heard Angie, so we're gonna lock you in as picking Angie.
I did mention Angie's name, so that's fair that you would have heard that. All right, moving on.
We got Seated Power against Team IR here. Seated Power is coming in at 6-5. King Cobb's 9-2. I think Seated Power pulls it off, dude. I think if he makes the playoffs as he should, I could see his roster totally be able to pull off multiple upsets. That addition of CeeDee Lamb is going to be really beneficial moving forward. Might just push him over the top. He is projected 145 to King Cobb's 121. Unfortunately for King Cobb and his roster this year, he's been decimated with some injuries, and I'm a little worried about that for him. I know he made that trade for D-Hop last week, which helps him, but losing probably the best receiver in fantasy football in Cooper Kupp, and then a really good streaming option in Zach Ertz is really really puts a dent in it, I'm going to take Seed and Power.
Yeah, I got to go Seton Power as well. He's sitting Mike Evans on the bench. He's sitting Jeff Wilson and Mostert against the Houston terrible, terrible run defense. And he still has a team that's projected to put up 150 points. So just lock that one in for both of us here. And yeah, it's not that King Cobb is a bad team, but game knows game.
So just to confirm, we have the same 3 picks so far.
No,
just want to remind you.
I picked you, and you picked Topadomo.
Okay. I just want to remind you that you're 6 games behind me, so maybe you want to make some more different picks so you can catch up. Unless you've given up.
Just trying to cut my losses, man. Just trying to cut my losses.
Then next we got Losers Corner, Trevor versus Team Joni 1. I actually have Trevor pulling off the upset this week against Team Joni 1. I really like what he has running back for this week with Jacobs, Stevenson, Latavius Murray, and Singletary. It's pretty fantastic play for week 12. For Team Joni 1, I'm not sure Mixon will play this week, as well as Mike Williams, so that could put a dent to his total stats. Once again, my decision has nothing to do with me owning Team Joni 1's first round pick this year and preying on his downfall.
I think that Trevor's prediction is slightly screwed right now because it shows Marquise Brown with no points projected, but he should have a solid 14 projected in there, and then it'll be a much closer looking matchup on paper. And I think you're right, because if this is the situation here, if Mixon doesn't play, his next person starting would be Kenyon Drake. So that's not great. And if Mike Williams doesn't play, then he might be starting Paris Campbell, and that's really the only other, and maybe Allen Robinson. So just really not some great options in there. And I think that if those two guys end up having to play, then that's a significant portion of your victory there. So I'm definitely thinking that Trevor's going to be making a push here for sure. But I do think I got to make up some ground. And if it's going to be a close matchup, I'm going to have to lean contrary. So I'm going to have to lean with the team that's the number 6 seed in right now, and that's Team Goni 1. Okay. Locking it in.
Well,
contrary.
Well, I hope you're wrong. In our last match of the week, we got Dan's Bent and Dan's Dense QBs versus the Love Boat Incident. We got 2 5-6 squads, 2 Sullivans, 2 teams that need a victory this week to keep with their playoff hopes. I think this matchup comes down to one player and one player only, and that is Jamar Chase. If he does play, I think Love Boat does win this one. And if he doesn't, I think Dan will probably pull this one off. I'm going to bet on Chase playing. Just because the Bengals don't necessarily have a great record this year, and I think they are desperate to get him back. And I think Love Boat pulls it off and proves that he's the better Sullivan, and deserves the he's the heir to the throne, pretty much. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right, because if Chase doesn't play, then he doesn't have anyone. But if Chase plays, he has a superstar. So his season and his hope to continue here in the next 3 weeks, he's got to win, because basically this could be his chance to upseed. He upseed his brother, and man, Sullivan's got a great team. Dan has a great team. Frig.
Yeah.
Wait, who'd you pick? You picked the Love Boat?
I did.
No, you picked Dan.
I picked the Love Boat. Oh, I'm sorry. I picked whoever has Jamar Chase. I picked the Sullivan. I picked him.
All right. I'm going with Dan. I don't think Jamar Chase plays. I think he's resting. They're winning without him, and I think they're going to rest him one more week. So you saw it with Hollywood Brown this week. They activated him off IR, but he didn't play right away. So I think the same thing. So I'm going to go with Dan for that reason. And yeah, sweet. Let's take a look at the playoff picture. So,
oh boy,
here's what we got, guys. We are currently going into week 12. Our playoffs start in week 15. So that means we have 3 more games to play. That does mean that at this point, if I lose every single matchup between now and the rest of the year, I may not make the playoffs. But the way that the standings are set right now is in first place, we have rated IR King Cobb at 9-2. At second place, we have Darius plus Slay equals likely, which is Darius at 8-3. And then in third, also at 8-3, is myself, $96 Fab Bids. And then we have number 4, Seed and Power at 6-5 on the year. And then we have number 5 through 9 with the same record. So everyone that I'm about to list, 5 through 9, the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 names, all 5 and 6. And this is where it gets a little bit dicey. So coming at number 5, the difference here is points scored. So number 5 is Dan's Bent and Dent QBs, number 5. Number 6, Team Goni 1. Number 7, the Love Boat Incident. Number 8, Isiah, Angie's burner account. And number 9, Team Topodomo. So those guys are all vying for a playoff spot. There is only 2 playoff spots between those 5 people right now to be had. So
Pretty funny. Us bottom 3 of Love Boat, me and Topodomo. When it comes to points scored, we're all within 5 points of each other, which is pretty nuts.
yeah, I mean, you and the Love Boat Incident are 0.14 apart.
Yeah, and we have pretty similar points allowed too, which is pretty wild. But he just has a lot more fab.
True.
And yeah, 10th we got Kirk wears all the chans at 4-7, as well as Trevor, who's right behind him at 4-7. And then lastly, we have our Momly group, Angie, who is a 2-9.
Yeah. So basically, with the way that there's 3 weeks left, I think about, okay, what would someone like, let's say, for example, Andy and Trevor, what would they need to be able to make the playoffs this week? If they had 3 more wins in a row, that would put them at 7-7 on the year. And based on where everyone else already is, that would mean that they wouldn't be able to get better than 4th for sure, right? They're already locked in there, and that's if they both won both of their matchups, or I should say all 3 games. You'd be looking at potentially a 4th and 5th finish. So let's see what the likelihoods of that happening for them are right now. For Andy, he's facing Darius this week, and we have Darius projected to win, and then Trevor facing Team Joni 1. Actually, a decent opportunity, to win, pull it out. You have Trevor winning. I have Team Goni 1 taking the victory. If they both lose this week, then their chances of making the playoffs drop to probably about 12%. Making it in with a losing record is going to be practically impossible, considering the 5 people that are sitting at 5 and 6 right now.
Yeah.
In week 13, we have Trevor up against Andy. So neither of them is going to be able to go 3-0 all the way in. And depending on what happens this week, we may be looking at that matchup to say this is Andy's last opportunity to have a shot. He has to beat Trevor next week to even, have a remote close decision. And I think that'll be the deciding factor for him. If Trevor loses as well, his chances at that point are pretty low of making the playoffs. The very last week of the season, we do have Andy going up against Team Joni 1 and Darius against Trevor. So obviously, if Darius is going up against Trevor last week of the year, that's a really tough matchup. It's not like they're going up against, someone who's decimated by injuries or Angie's team. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a battle for them. I say their likelihood to make the playoffs right now is slim to none. I don't know about how you feel about it.
So, yeah, dude, it's gonna come down to the wire. I think. I'm just looking at my own matchups, bro. For this week, I'm going up against 5-6 Topodomo. Next week, depending on what happens, I'm also going up against Dan's Bent and Den's QBs, who currently right now is 5-6. And then week 14, I'm going up against a Love Boat Incidents, who is also 5-6. So it's going to be some dog fights until the end, dude. I think we're all going to be fighting for that. Because I think personally, let me pull up the stands again. I think the first four are totally locked in. I know Seaton Power is 6-5, only one game ahead of us. But I think his roster is fantastic, and he's just had some bad luck. So I think he's going to make it rather easily. So I think those are the top four right there, and then the next two is going to be combination of probably us five. Not a real big believer in Andy and Trevor's roster so much, and they're already a game back. Um, I could see Team Joining One's been on a heater lately. I could see him pulling it off. I know the Love Boat incident. I'm not sure what his game plan is moving forward. I know he's not. He's kind of looking on next year, so we'll see what happens with that. And I could see him kind of dipping down, and then maybe Topodomo making a run. Although I'm not super hyped about his roster. Maybe Dan's Benton, Dan's QBs. I don't know. It's gonna come down to the end and like who beats who and how these last 3 weeks go. But it should be pretty dope because we're all. Look at next week's matchup.
I just realized that Dan's Bent and Dent QBs has 1, 2, 3, 4 of his starting players, 5 of his starting players on bye week 14.
Mm.
So he'll be rolling out utter garbage that week.
You said week 14.
Yeah. So
Could have been 13.
that means if he loses this week, he's out because he's going to get slaughtered in week 14, and then that's it. There's one win to help him in that at that point.
And then this week I play Topodomo, Dan Sullivan's and Dan's Benson QBs plays Love Boat Incident, and then next week some more 5-6 matchups as of right now. Topodomo is going up against a Love Boat Incident, so that's another one where it should be a dogfight. I think Trevor and Andy are going up against each other. Team Johnny One's going up against Darius Slay. Good luck. Seaton Power is playing Angie. That's probably a victory. Then week 14. Like I said, me and the Love Boat Incident, and then Andy against Team Johnny One, Topo Domo against Dan Sullivan again. So my point being is that we're really not going to know until last. I think it's definitely coming down to last week for sure. So.
Yeah, and then I was looking at like who some of the other like higher seed teams basically face. I don't know. I'm I'm not in love with the odds. I don't know. Some of these
I think I'm going to make it. I think I'm not going to say I'm going to. I think I have a good chance of making it, not based off my roster, but based off who I'm playing. I do not play a winning team the rest of the season. So we'll see what happens. I could totally bite myself in the foot and regret saying this. But I do like the fact I'm not playing one of the better teams. I think some of the other 5 and 6 teams right now have to play some better teams. So we'll see what happens with that. But should be a fun finish.
I did get some picks in from Dan. Speaking of Dan's Bent and Dent QBs, he actually literally just sent me his picks for this week. So we wanted to start in trying to incorporate other people from the league that want to also do their predictions. We're not gonna have them do write-ups or anything like that all the time, but just like who do they pick, and then we can also say, oh, and Dan also picks so and so to win.
So we can see we can see how everyone else in that group is better at picking than Matthews.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll tell you guys who he went through, with the picks here. But the first matchup, Dan versus Mike. He said here that He's taking Dan because Mike is tanking for draft picks.
Oh, we have collusion.
Uh,
There's going to be some members in the chat who are not going to like that.
I think there's some exposure going on here. So yeah, he
Oh,
definitely thinks that he's going to take himself in that matchup, which totally makes sense. And like we talked about, if Dan doesn't win, he's out. His opportunity is going down. So he's also grabbing Darius because he thinks that his players will underperform, but he still gets the W against against Kirk wears all the chains. Um, for Buster Jacoby versus Angie, he said Buster, he's taking me because he said it's a bye week. Angie will put up a fight. Just outclassed, he says. Um, so there's that. And he's taking seed in power. He said that Fields just isn't effective. D Hop has a reduced role um, if what's his face Hollywood comes back. So he's taking seed in power in that matchup, which we all are on the same page about that. And then he takes actually Trevor if Mixon doesn't play, Goni one if he does, which is pretty much where we had kind of landed on that, and that's why we split as far as the Mixon decision goes. And Tobadomo, he's taken him to win. He gets Claypool out of there, gets past Isaiah, he said. So he thinks
yeah, screw him. I never liked his vibe. Anyways, he's probably one of my least favorite players in the league. Always got attitude. Always talking shit in the chat. Don't like him. Don't like him.
love it, love it. So he's taken Tobadomo there. He says there's too many question marks around Najee, Pacheco, Ingram, Judy. He said there's no way that they all perform. So yeah, that's his picks for the week. So thanks for joining in, Dan. We're glad to have you joining on, and we'll be able to start tracking. Um,
Yeah.
let's bring us home with the power rankings and kind of talk about what the updates are that we have for this week. We actually had quite a few movements in the power rankings. So we'll start at the bottom and work our way up. Coming in at number 12 in the power rankings this week, Isaiah's tiny purse. Angie staying where she has, not moved for the entire season. Number 11, though, is a little bit of a change, and this is dropping back down to 11, and this is Trevor in loser's corner. And he's back in the corner with Angie of the power rankings. That's a 4-spot drop for him. Number 10, though, we also have Angie again. No, wait, no, it's just Angie's burner account. Isaiah down here at number 10, up a spot from last week. So nice job.
Nothing but up from here, baby.
Started from the bottom. Now we're here. Well,
So,
not truly at the bottom because that would have been actual Angie's account.
yeah.
Number 9, we got the Love Boat incident coming in. That's a spot down from last week. He was 8 last week, down to 9. At number 8, we got Kirk wears all the chains. That is a climb in the right direction for him. He was at 10 last week, moving up to 8 now. At number 7, we got Reverend Big Cheese. That's actually down a spot for him. He was in sixth place last week, but down after the loss this week. Number 6, Dan's Bent and Dent QBs. I believe he's ranked 5th overall in the standings, 6th overall in the power rankings. He's down a spot this week. We'll see if he can keep on the up and up after this week's matchup. Coming in at number 5, Team Goni 1. This is actually down as well. He was in 4th last week. He's down to 5 now. At number 4 this week, all the way up from 9. This is Seed and Power. On the rise when it comes to the power rankings, finally with a winning record. And I think that trade of CeeDee Lamb really helped him out as well. He's here to play. Number 3, no movement from last week. This is King Cobb, rated IR. He might be number 1 in standings, but not for long. Seems like he's going to be making a fall from grace here pretty shortly. And so we got King Cobb in 3rd. And then at number 2, we've got Darius. The commish has been dethroned in the power rankings at number 2, down a spot from last week. And that means that number 1 overall, $96 fab bids. I've taken the number one spot in the power rankings. Pretty stoked about it. If you look at the actual power ranking score, I'm like less than 2 points ahead of Darius, and he is less than 2 points ahead of King Cobb. So we are very, very close together in the rankings. But yeah, stoked to be on top. Let's go.
Love that for you. We talk about Darius trying to say that you absolutely destroyed him in the Eckler trade, and that's why you're winning. I thought that was kind of cap. It seemed like I was a little salty about our comments on the trade.
Yeah, he said he definitely said that I destroyed you in that Eckler trade. So maybe he's just forgetting that we're playing in Dynasty and a Titan premium format. But listen, I thought it was pretty fair. I thought that at the time we discussed it that you actually won the trade. So
yeah. It was good for both of us.
We'll see what ends up happening. But that is a wrap for this week's episode. Please be sure to like, comment on the video if you're watching on YouTube. Thanks for those of you who have been commenting. It really does help out. If you're listening on Apple Music or Spotify podcast, please leave us a review or rating. It really does help us as well. If you follow us on TikTok and Twitter, stay in touch with us. We'll post updates on there as well. Latest content, interact with us. Like I mentioned before, who knows how long Twitter will be around. And this week, dude, Patriots versus Skull Squad. Let's go.
I'm going to be honest. This is the only game this year where I'm praying the Patriots win so I can go in the group chat and just talk my shit. Unfortunately, I don't think that'll happen. I'm going to be making turkey stuffing, mashed potatoes. I'm out here making green bean casserole. I'm making apple pie. I'm making all the goddamn fixes, right? But I don't think it happens. I think the Vikings win, unfortunately, but we'll see what happens.
Dude, Patriots have top two defense in the league, though. And
we do.
Saw how badly they were getting to Zach Wilson, who was a pretty decent offensive line last week, and how bad the Cowboys were at getting to Kirk Cousins last week. So we could see a situation where Kirk Cousins is just a Kirk pancake.
I like that. I like that a lot.
They'll take away his number one weapon, Justin Jefferson, which means, we'll be stopping the run, Dalvin Cook all game. I don't know. I like my chances. You
know what? I agree. Out of confidence and out of people in this chat, I'm picking the Patriots. Let's go. I said it.
Gotta be the Patriots. So,
oh yeah,
the true best team in the league right now. So,
as the people are saying, as all the people are saying.
Yeah.
But, sweet, dude. Well, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving, and to all our viewers out there, you as well. And yeah, that Dynasty podcast and our host Matthew. So long, and we will see you next week.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.